Hey guys, tonight we're exploring a side of American history that's often spoken about in fragments, softened by distance, or hidden behind larger stories of independence and revolution. Before we get comfortable, take a second to like this video and subscribe. Only if you truly enjoy what we read doing here. And in the comments, share where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe let a fan hum softly in the background. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Tonight, we're stepping quietly into the year 1776. For many people, the year 1776 immediately brings to mind bold declarations, ringing bells, and the language of freedom written carefully onto parchment. It's a year that's been retold so often and so proudly that it can feel almost mythical. But history, like the night sky, looks different depending on where you're standing. As fireworks of revolution were being imagined in meeting halls and printed in newspapers, there were hundreds of thousands of people across the American colonies for whom the word freedom sounded distant, abstract, and unreachable. Their days did not revolve around debates, documents, or dreams of a new nation. Their lives were shaped instead by routine, exhaustion, and the quiet, relentless passage of time. This is where we begin. Not with speeches or battles, but with ordinary mornings, with the steady rhythm of days, lived by people whose names were rarely written down, whose thoughts were not preserved in letters, and whose stories were often reduced to numbers or footnotes. Tonight is not about shock or spectacle. It's about presence, about slowing down and gently, respectfully witnessing what everyday life was like for enslaved people living in America during that pivotal year. To understand 1776 fully, we have to imagine more than one reality existing at the same time. Picture the land itself first. Vast stretches of farmland, forests, rivers, and dirt roads connecting plantations, towns, and ports. The air smells of soil, wood smoke, and growing crops. The world moves at the pace of daylight and weather. There is no electricity, no engines humming in the background. Life follows the sun. For enslaved people, time does not belong to them. Morning arrives not as a choice, but as a demand. The day begins early, often before the sky has fully lightened, when the air is still cool and quiet. There is no slow waking, no lingering in bed. Sleep ends when it must, not when the body is ready. Their living quarters are simple and crowded. Small cabins or shared spaces built for function, not comfort. Inside, the sounds of breathing, shifting, and soft movement mark the end of night. The floor is hard-packed earth or rough wood. Blankets, if there are any, are thin and well-worn. Privacy is rare. Rest is shallow. As the body stirs awake, it carries the memory of yesterday with it. Muscles ache from repetitive labor. Hands are rough, skin hardened by years of work. Fatigue is not an exception. It is a constant companion. Even so, there is a quiet efficiency to the morning. Movements are practiced, habitual. There is no time to waste, and no energy to spare. Clothing is simple and practical, often coarse and uncomfortable. Garments are made to last, not to please. They are repaired again and again, passed down, reshaped, reused. There is little separation between work clothes and rest clothes, because almost everything is work. Food in the morning is modest, enough to sustain, rarely enough to satisfy. Simple ingredients, prepared quickly. There is no indulgence here, only necessity. Hunger is familiar, but it is pushed aside. The day's labor waits, and it will not be delayed. As the sun rises higher, the world becomes louder. Tools are gathered. Voices call out instructions. The natural sounds of the countryside blend with human effort. Birds, insects, wind through leaves, all of it layered with the steady cadence of work beginning. What's important to understand is that this life is not defined by a single dramatic moment. It is defined by repetition. By days that look very much like the days before them, stretching back years and forward into an uncertain future. Enslaved people are not living through history as it's later remembered. They are living through today, and yet, within this constrained world, there is still thought, feeling, memory, and awareness. People talk quietly when they can. They notice changes in weather, in seasons, in one another. They remember where they came from. Even when those memories are faint or painful, they form bonds, families, and communities under conditions that are never stable, never guaranteed. There is strength here, but it is not loud. It does not announce itself. It exists in endurance, in adaptation, in getting through one more day. As we continue, we'll move slowly through these lives, hour by hour, season by season. We'll pay attention to the small details that shaped each day, the things that history books often pass over, not to judge from afar, but simply to understand. For now, the sun is still rising on this ordinary morning in 1776. Work is about to begin in earnest, and the long day stretches ahead, shaped by labor, discipline, and the quiet determination to endure. And as the first tasks of the day are set into motion, we step a little closer, ready to follow what comes next. As the morning deepens, the quiet softness of early dawn fades away. The sky grows brighter, the air warmer, and with that change comes a shift in pace. What began as stillness now becomes motion, and motion becomes expectation. For enslaved people in 1776, the workday does not easy and gently. It arrives fully formed, long before most of the world feels awake. The day has already claimed its first hours. Rising early is not a habit. It is a requirement shaped by necessity and control. The work must begin while the air is still cool, before the heat of the sun presses down on bodies already pushed to their limits. There is no clock to glance at, no bell chosen by the worker. Time is measured by light, by sound, by routine. When it is time to rise, you rise. The body learns this rhythm, even when it aches against it. Sleep is cut short, not by restlessness, but by obligation. As people step outside, the morning air carries a brief sense of openness. The land stretches wide, quiet except for insects and distant movement. For a moment there is a feeling that belongs to no one else. The earth underfoot, the sky overhead. These small sensations are noticed, even if only briefly. Then the day gathers itself. Groups move toward their assigned tasks. Some head toward fields that seem to go on forever, rows waiting patiently to be tended. Others turn toward kitchens, workshops, or homes where labor takes a different shape but demands no less effort. Each role has its own rhythms, its own demands, its own forms of strain. Field labor is relentless. Crops must be planted, weeded, harvested, tended, day after day. The work is repetitive, and repetition takes its toll. Bending, lifting, cutting, carrying movements repeated until they blur together. Muscle learn these motions so deeply that they continue even when the mind drifts elsewhere. The sun rises higher now, and with it comes heat. Clothing offers little protection. Fabric clings to skin damp with sweat. Dust settles everywhere. The body becomes a tool, valued for what it can produce rather than what it feels. Yet even amid effort and exhaustion, there is awareness. People notice one another, a glance exchanged, a quiet word passed when it can be. These moments are brief, but they matter. They remind people that they are not alone, even when isolation is built into the structure of their lives. For those working inside homes or workshops, the morning unfolds differently, but no less intensely. Cooking fires are lit early. Food must be prepared, not juste on say, but repeatedly throughout the day. Washing, cleaning, mending tasks that never truly end. The work is constant, often invisible, and always expected. Children are present too. Some are very young, following along, watching, learning through observation rather than instruction. Others are already given responsibilities, small at first, then steadily increasing. Childhood does not stretch long here. It is folded quickly into usefulness. The pace of the morning is set by authority, not choice. Instructions are given. Expectations are clear. There is little room for error, little tolerance for delay. Each person understands what is required of them, because not understanding carries consequences. Still, within this tightly controlled structure, the human mind finds ways to move. Thoughts drift, Memories surface. Someone remembers a story told long ago, a song half remembered, a face that feels both distant and close. These inner movements are quiet, unseen, and deeply personal. As the sun climbs, the body settles into its work. Fatigue builds gradually, like a weight added grain by grain. There is no moment when exhaustion suddenly appears. It is always there, waiting, deepening with each passing hour. Water is taken when allowed. Brief pauses are precious, though they are rarely restful. Standing still, even for a moment, can feel like relief, even if the mind knows it will not last. What's striking about these mornings is how ordinary they are. There is no drama in waking, no singular event that defines the day. And yet, these ordinary mornings are the foundation of everything else. They are repeated again and again, forming a life not marked by milestones, but by continuity. This repetition shapes the way time is felt. Days blend into one another. Weeks pass, not as chapters, but as a steady flow. The future is difficult to imagine in detail, because the present demands so much attention, and yet people imagine it anyway. Quietly, carefully. Hope does not always take the form of expectation. Sometimes it exists simply as endurance, the belief that one can continue, that tomorrow can be faced when it arrives. As midday approaches, the sun stands higher, the work intensifies, and the brief coolness of morning is now only a memory. Bodies are fully engaged, minds focused on the task at hand, conserving energy where they can. The day is far from over. In fact, it has only just settled into its longest stretch, and as the morning gives way to the full weight of the day, the rhythm of labor continues, steady and unyielding, carrying everyone forward into the hours that lie ahead. The day continues to unfold, and with it comes a deeper awareness of the body itself. As the hours pass and the sun rises higher, attention turns often unwillingly to the things that touch the skin, that chafe, that way, that never quite feel right. Clothing in 1776 is not about expression or comfort. For enslaved people, it is about function, endurance, and scarcity. What you wear is what you are given, and what you are given must last far longer than it was ever meant to. Most garments are simple and rough, coarse fabrics woven to withstand hard use rather than gentle movement. The texture is noticeable immediately against the skin, scratchy, stiff, sometimes heavy when damp with sweat or rain. Seams rub. Edges fray. Nothing fits quite right, because nothing is made with the individual body in mind. There are usually only a few changes of clothing, sometimes only one. Washing is infrequent, not from neglect, but from lack of opportunity. Clean water takes effort to fetch. Time to scrub fabric is time taken from rest. So clothes are worn again and again, patched where they tear, reinforced where they thin, until the original shape is almost unrecognizable. In the heat of summer, fabric clings. Air feels trapped between cloth and skin. Sweat has nowhere to go. The sun beats down relentlessly, and there is little protection from it. Hats or coverings are practical rather than protective, offering minimal shade. Skin darkens, toughens, and bears the marks of constant exposure. In colder months, the situation reverses, but the hardship remains. Thin layers offer little insulation. Wind slips easily through worn fabric. Cold settles into bones and joints, lingering long after the workday ends. Extra garments, when available, are shared or rotated, never guaranteed. Shoes, if they are provided at all, are basic and ill-fitting, often stiff at first, then gradually softened by use. They offer limited protection from uneven ground. Many people work barefoot for part of the year, feeling every stone, root, and rough surface beneath them. The earth becomes familiar through the soles of the feet. Despite all of this, terres care. People mend what they can. A tear is not just a tear. It is a problem to be solved. A loose thread is tucked back in. A worn elbow is reinforced. These small acts of maintenance are quiet assertions of agency, ways of holding on to usefulness and dignity in a world that offers little of either. Clothing also carries meaning beyond practicality. A well-kept garment, even if old and faded, can be a source of pride. A carefully tied wrap, a neatly fastened shirt, these details matter. They are ways of presenting oneself to the world, even within strict limitations. Children often wear hand-me-downs, garments that have already lived many lives. Sleeves are rolled up, hems let down, adjustments made as bodies grow. Clothing grows with them, reshaped again and again, until it can no longer serve. The act of dressing each morning is brief and efficient. There's no mirror to consult, no choice to weigh. The body slips into familiar fabric, and the day resumes. And yet, even in this simplicity, there is awareness. A chill felt more sharply, a heat that builds faster, a sore spot made worse by friction. As the sun moves toward its peak, clothing becomes part of the labor itself, something endured alongside the work. It is one more weight to carry, one more reminder of how closely survival is tied to endurance. Still, the body adapts. Skin tugans movements adjust to minimize discomfort where possible. People learn how to tie, fold, or loosen fabric just enough to make the day bearable. These are small skills, learned quietly, passed along through observation rather than instruction. The hours stretch. Hunger begins to make itself known again. Muscles tire. The heat presses down, and through it all, clothing remains constant, never quite comfortable, never entirely forgotten. As the sun begins its slow descent and thoughts turn, even briefly, toward the next meal, attention shifts away from what is worn and back toward what is needed. Because in a life shaped by labor, sustenance matters just as much as survival. And as midday approaches, the question of food, what there is, how much, and when, moves gently but persistently to the front of the mind. As the day presses on and the sun settles high overhead, the body begins to ask a familiar question. It isn't loud, and it isn't new. It arrives quietly, with a hollow feeling just beneath the ribs, a gentle reminder that energy must come from somewhere. Meals for enslaved people in 1776 are not moments of pleasure or pause. They are practical interruptions, brief stops meant to sustain the body just enough to continue. Food is fuel, carefully measured, rarely abundant, and almost never wasted. The midday meal, when it comes, is simple. There is little ceremony. Work slows just enough to allow eating, but never fully stops. Bowls or containers are brought out. Hands move quickly. There is an understanding that time is limited. Staples form the foundation of the diet. Cornmeal appears again and again, prepared in different ways depending on what is available. Sometimes it becomes a thick porridge. Other times it is baked into dense cakes or bread. It fills the stomach, but does not linger long. Hunger is eased, not erased. Salted meat may be included, though often in small amounts. Salt preserves what would otherwise spoil, but it also makes food heavy and thirst-inducing. Meat is bought with, rationed carefully, and rarely eaten fresh. When it appears, it is stretched as far as possible. Vegetables supplement these basics when gardens or small plots allow. Greens, beans, squash, whatever, can be grown and spared. These additions bring variety, but they depend on season, weather, and circumstance. Nothing is guaranteed. Children eat what adults eat, just in smaller portions. There is no separate table, no special allowance for growing bodies. Hunger teaches patience early. It teaches awareness of portions, of fairness, of waiting one's turn. Food is eaten quickly, often standing or sitting wherever space allows. Conversation is limited. There is no lingering, no resting afterward. As soon as the meal is finished, work resumes. The body absorbs what it can and moves on. Despite the scarcity, there is knowledge here. People understand how to make the most of what little they have. They know how to season simply, how to stretch ingredients, how to cook in ways that preserve strength. These skills are passed down quietly, through observation and repetition. Sometimes, small acts of care appear. Someone shares a bite. Someone saves a portion for later. These gestures are subtle, often unnoticed by anyone else, but they matter deeply to those involved. Hunger, when it returns, as it often does, becomes a background presence. It does not stop the work. It does not hold the day. It settles in and waits. A companion as familiar as fatigue. As the afternoon advances, the sun begins its slow descent. Though the heat lingers, the energy gained from the meal fades gradually. Muscles grow heavier. Movements require more effort. The body continues because it must. Food, in this world, is never separate from labor. One exists to support the other. There is no indulgence, no excess, only balance, carefully maintained. And as the long stretch of afternoon work unfolds, the memory of that brief meal becomes something to draw from, a reminder that nourishment has been taken. That strength, however limited, is still present. The day is not yet finished. Far from Italiano, with the sun still high and the tasks still many, labor continues, carrying everyone forward into the next hours, where effort deepens and endurance is tested once again. The afternoon settles in fully now, heavy and unyielding. The sun no longer feels like a presence in the sky, so much as a weight pressing down on everything beneath it. Shadows shorten, the air thickens, and the work, already long underway, shows no sign of easing. This is the heart of the day. For enslaved people in 1776, labor is not divided neatly into shifts or segments. It stretches outward, filling nearly every waking hour. The body is expected to keep pace with the demands placed upon it, regardless of heat, hunger, or fatigue. In D fields, the rhythm is steady and repetitive. Rows extend far into the distance, offering no clear endpoint. Each task flows into the next. Planting gives way to tending, tending to harvesting, harvesting to preparing the land once again. There is always more to do, and it is understood that the work ends only when the light does. Hands move almost automatically now. Muscles follow familiar patterns, conserving energy where possible. Bending, lifting, cutting each motion repeated so often that it becomes ingrained. Less a conscious decision and more a physical response. The body learns efficiency not for comfort, but for survival. The heat builds slowly, then all at once. Sweat runs freely, soaking into fabric that offers little relief. The sun reflects off the ground, intensifying the warmth. There is no shade in open fields, no escape from the elements. Breaks are brief and regulated. Water is taken sparingly, just enough to continue. For those working indoors, the afternoon brings its own challenges. Kitchens grow hotter as fires burn steadily. The air becomes thick with smoke and steam. Tasks pile up: cleaning, cooking, carrying, caring. There is no stillness here either, only a different kind of motion. Domestic labor is constant and often unnoticed. Floors are swept only to be dirtied again. Dishes are washed and reused immediately. Clothing is mended under low light, fingers working carefully despite tiredness. The work is quieter, but no less demanding. Children remain present throughout the day. Some are assigned small tasks, others simply follow along, absorbing the rhythms of labor through observation. They learn early how the day unfolds, where they are expected to be, how quickly time moves, when it is not your own. The afternoon is when fatigue truly sets in. Muscles protest more loudly now. Small aches become deeper pains. Hands stiffen, backs ache, and yet the work continues. What keeps people moving is not motivation in the modern sense. It is habit, expectation, the understanding that stopping is not an option. The day will move forward, whether the body wants to or not. Still, within this relentless structure, there are moments small and fleeting where the mind drifts. A song hums quietly under breath. A memory surfaces uninvited. Someone counts steps or rows, marking progress in tiny increments. These mental strategies help pass the time, help make the work bearable. Conversation, when it happens, is brief and careful. Words are chosen thoughtfully. Shared glances communicate more than speech ever could. There is a deep understanding among those laboring together, built not on long discussions, but on shared experience. As the sun begins its gradual descent, the light changes. Shadows lengthen, the heat softens, just slightly. This shift is noticed immediately. It signals that the day, though far from over, is moving toward its final stretch. Energy is drawn from reserves that feel nearly empty. Movements slow, though expectations remain unchanged. The last hours of work often feel the longest, not because the tasks are harder, but because the body is tired beyond argument. There is no applause at the end of the day, no acknowledgement that enough has been done. Labor concludes simply because light fades, not because the work is finished. As evening approaches, tools are set aside, Fires are tended again. The pace shifts, though the fatigue remains. The body carries the weight of the day with it, into whatever rest the night may allow. This long stretch from sunup to sundown is the defining feature of everyday life. It shapes the body, the mind, the sense of time itself. Days are measured not by dates or events, but by effort expended and endurance maintained. And as the sky begins to soften into evening hues, thoughts turn not to freedom or escape or distant futures, but to the simplest needs still unmet: rest, shelter, and the fragile comfort of familiar faces as night begins to settle in. As the day moves forward and the weight of work settles deeper into every muscle, there is another presence woven quietly into the rhythm of labor. It does not stand apart. It does not wait on the edges. It works alongside everyone else, learning the patterns early, absorbing the rules of the world before fully understanding them. Childhood, as we often imagine it, does not unfold gently here. For enslaved children in 1776 America, life begins already shaped by expectation. From the earliest years, they are surrounded by work, not as observers only, but as participants in training. There is little separation between play and preparation. Every movement, every task watched closely, is part of learning how to be useful. Very young children stay close to older family members, carried when possible, set down when not. They learn the sounds of labor before they learn to read the sky. The scrape of tools, the call of voices, the rhythm of footsteps in the dirt. These are the sounds of safety and survival. As they grow, small responsibilities are added gradually. Fetching water, carrying messages, watching over younger siblings. Tasks are chosen not for ease, but for what the child can manage without slowing the work around them. Price is rare, but expectation is constant. There is no clear moment when a child becomes a worker. It happens quietly, piece by piece. One day you are watching. The next, you are helping. Soon after, you are expected to know what to do without being told. Learning happens through observation. Children watch hands move, bodies bend, tools used in precise ways. Instructions are short. Corrections are immediate. The goal is not mastery, but reliability. The speed that these children still find moments that belong to them. A pause between tasks. A shared smile. A whispered joke passed quickly before attention returns to the work. These moments are brief and fragile, but they matter deeply. There is laughter here, though it is often quiet. There are games invented from scraps of time and imagination. Stones become toys. Songs are made up and forgotten just as quickly. Play exists in the spaces left behind by labor, never fully absent, never fully free. Children grow up surrounded by adults who carry fatigue in their bodies and history in their voices. Stories are told when they can be stories of people remembered, of places left behind, of lessons learned the hard way. These stories shape understanding long before formal knowledge ever could. Family bonds are strong, but always shadowed by uncertainty. Children learn early that nothing is guaranteed. Presence today does not promise presence tomorrow. This awareness settles quietly, shaping how attachments are formed and held. Older children begin to take on more demanding tasks. Their bodies are smaller, but the expectations are real. Strength is built through repetition. Endurance is learned through necessity. There is little room for hesitation, and yet, care persists. Older siblings watch over younger ones. Adults adjust tasks where they can, offering protection in small ways, standing closer, sharing the weight, guiding without drawing attention. These acts are subtle, often invisible to anyone else, but deeply felt. Education, in the formal sense, is absent, but knowledge is everywhere. Children learn how seasons change, how weather affects crops, how people depend on one another. They learn which moments are safe for speaking and which require silence. These lessons are practical, immediate, and essential. As the afternoon wears on, children feel fatigue differently. Their bodies tire faster, but they recover quickly when given the chance. Still, the long hours leave their mark. Sleep comes easily at night, but rest is never complete. There is a quiet resilience in these young lives, not because hardship is easier for them, but because adaptability becomes second nature. They learn how to move within constraints, how to find comfort in familiarity, how to hold on to joy without drawing attention to it. By the time evening approaches, children are woven fully into the fabric of the day. They have contributed, observed, learned. They have endured alongside adults, their smaller steps keeping pace with the world around them. Night brings a softening of expectations, but not a full release. Children gather close to family, listening, resting, absorbing the final sounds of the day. Their minds carry tomorrow with them even as sleep begins to take hold. And in the quiet that follows when the work has paused and the sky has darkened, these young lives rest briefly before another day begins, already shaped by the rhythms they have never chosen yet learned to navigate with remarkable strength. As the light begins to soften and the sharp edge of the afternoon dulls, attention slowly turns inward. The work does not disappear, but it loosens its grip just enough to allow space for something else, something quieter and just as essential. Family, for enslaved people in 1776, is both a source of strength and a source of constant uncertainty. Connections are formed deeply and carefully, shaped by shared labor, shared spaces, and shared endurance. These bonds grow not out of convenience, but out of necessity. In a world where so much is controlled, family becomes one of the few places where emotional life can take root. Partnerships form in this environment with little ceremony. There are no legal protections, no guarantees recognized by law. Relationships exist because people choose them, nurture them, and hold on to them as best they can. Love is lived quietly, expressed through care rather than words. Saret? Mil. A hand offered during a moment of exhaustion. A look exchanged across a crowded space. These are the gestures that carry meaning. Marriage, as it exists here, is informal and fragile. Couples may consider themselves bound to one another, but that bond is always vulnerable to forces beyond their control. Still, people commit. They build lives together where they can, knowing that certainty is a luxury they do not possess. Parenthood is shaped by deep devotion and constant vigilance. Parents watch their children carefully, not just out of affection, but out of awareness. Every moment carries potential change. The presence of a child today does not promise the same tomorrow. Because of this, time together is valued intensely. Stories are told not just for entertainment, but for memory. Songs are shared as anchors, holding pieces of identity steady in an uncertain world. Names are repeated, histories remembered aloud, so they are not lost. Families often extend beyond blood. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, neighbors all play roles in caring for children, sharing burdens, offering guidance. Community fills gaps where stability cannot be guaranteed. These networks are flexible, adaptive, and deeply human. Evenings, when they arrive, bring a subtle shift. Bodies are tired, but proximity matters. People sit close together, drawn by habit and comfort. Conversations are soft. Laughter, when it comes, is gentle, never careless. Children lean against adults. Adults rest their hands on familiar shoulders. These small moments of closeness are powerful. They offer reassurance without promises, presence without certainty. Love, in this world, is not loud or dramatic. It does not announce itself. It lives in consistency, in showing up day after day, even when doing so requires effort beyond measure. There is also grief here, though it is rarely spoken openly. The possibility of separation is always near. Families learn how to love with awareness, holding joy and fear side by side. This does not lessen the bond, it deepens it. Older generations carry memories of loss, and those memories shape how they guide the young. Warnings are given gently. Advice is offered carefully. There is a desire to protect without frightening, to prepare without overwhelming. Children sense this balance, even when it is not explained. They learn to appreciate closeness, to recognize the value of togetherness, even when they do not fully understand why it feels so important. Despite the weight of uncertainty, families still dream, not always of escape or distant futures, but of smaller things. A good harvest, a healthy child, another day together. These hopes are modest, but they are powerful. As night deepens, families settle into shared spaces. Sleeping arrangements are close, shaped by necessity and habit. The sounds of breathing, the warmth of nearby bodies, create a sense of safety that is both physical and emotional. Before sleep fully takes hold, there are moments of quiet reflection. Parents watch their children rest. Partners lie side by side, sharing silence. These are not dramatic scenes. They are simple, steady, and deeply meaningful. In these moments, love exists, not as an ideal, but as a practice. Something lived rather than spoken. Something maintained through attention, care, and resilience. And as darkness wraps gently around the day, families hold on to one another not because tomorrow is promised, but because tonight is here. The world outside grows still. The work has paused, and within the fragile shelter of shared presence, rest begins to find its way in. As the sun lowers and the light thins into softer shades, the long day finally begins to loosen its grip. The pace changes not because the demands disappear, but because the body has reached the edge of what it can give. Evening does not arrive all at once. It settles slowly, almost cautiously, as if testing whether it is truly allowed to stay. The work of the day tapers rather than ends. Tools are gathered, fires are adjusted, spaces are tidied, just enough to prepare for night. There is no clear signal announcing that labor is finished. It simply shifts, becoming quieter, slower, less visible. Bodies move with practiced economy now. Every motion is measured, conserving what little energy remains. Muscles are stiff, joints sore, hands swollen from use. Fatigue has become a physical presence, heavy and familiar. For many, the evening hours are spent preparing food once again. Fires are coaxed back to life. Pots are set in place. Ingredients are simple and few, but the ritual of cooking brings a sense of structure to the fading day. The smell of food warm, earthy, comforting cuts through the exhaustion. Children drift closer to adults, their energy spent earlier. They sit or lean where they can, listening more than speaking. Their movements slow, eyes heavy. Even play fades naturally into stillness. Conversations are muted, voices drop without instruction. There is an unspoken understanding that evening is not the time for noise or conflict. The day has already taken enough. As food is shared, attention turns inward. The body begins to account for itself where it hurts, where it holds tension, where it will ache tomorrow. There is no luxury of treatment or rest beyond what the night allows. Pain is noted, not discussed. Eating is unhurried now, not because there is time, but because haste is no longer possible. Each bite is taken with care. Hunger eases slightly, enough to quiet the sharp edge, though fullness is rare. After the meal, there are small tasks still to be done. Fires must be banked, spaces made ready for sleep. Clothing set aside, children guided gently toward rest. These tasks are familiar, repeated every night, offering a sense of rhythm that anchors the end of the day. Living spaces are close and crowded. There's little separation between sleeping, eating, and working areas. Privacy is minimal, but familiarity brings a kind of comfort. Everyone knows where to sit, where to lie, how to make room for one another. As darkness deepens, the sounds of the world change. Daytime noises fade, replaced by insects, distant animals, the soft crackle of embers. The air cools slightly, carrying relief from the heat, though it also brings new discomforts. People settle into place. Blankets are pulled close. Bodies arrange themselves carefully, finding positions that minimize pain. Sleep does not come instantly. The mind lingers, replaying the day, anticipating the next. There is a quiet time here, just before rest fully arrives. Thoughts drift. Some people whisper softly, others remain silent, lost in their own reflections. These moments are private, even when shared in close quarters. The absence of work feels strange at first. The body, accustomed to constant motion, takes time to slow. Muscles twitch. Breathing steadies. Gradually, the tension of the day begins to ease, though it never fully disappears. Evening is not a reward. It is simply a pause. A necessary one. There is no celebration in the end of the day, only relief that it has passed. For many, sleep is shallow and broken. The ground is hard. The air carries sounds and smells that do not fade easily. Bodies shift frequently, seeking comfort that remains just out of reach. Still, rest comes. It must. Tomorrow will arrive regardless. As eyes close and the world dims, the sense of time softens. The sharp edges of the day blur. Exhaustion pulls the mind toward stillness. The night holds its own challenges. But for now, the body is allowed to stop moving. That alone is something to be grateful for. And so, under a darkened sky, surrounded by familiar presences, the day releases its hold. Not completely. Not kindly. But enoje. Enough to sleep. The night settles fully now, not with ceremony, but with a quiet inevitability. Darkness wraps around the living space, softening edges, muting details, and drawing attention inward. The work has stopped, but the body has not yet found peace. Sleep, for enslaved people in 1776, is not a luxury. It is a necessity shaped by exhaustion rather than comfort. Bodies lie close together, arranged by habit more than choice. Space is limited, and everyone knows how to make themselves smaller when needed. Limbs are carefully placed, blankets are shared or pulled tight. The ground beneath is unforgiving, offering little support to aching muscles. As breathing slows and the world grows quieter, the senses remain alert. Sounds carry easily in the night. Insects hum, wood creaks as it cools. Somewhere nearby, an animal shifts or calls out. These noises are familiar, almost comforting, yet they keep sleep light and easily broken. The body, used to constant motion, resists stillness at first. Muscles twitch. Joints protest. The memory of labor lingers, replaying itself in small aches and stiffness. Finding a position that eases discomfort takes time. An event and relief is temporary. Sleep comes in waves rather than all at once. A shallow drifting off, followed by waking. A brief stretch of rest, then a shift. The night is not a single uninterrupted experience, but a series of pauses. In these quiet moments, between sleep and waking, the mind wanders. Thoughts surface gently, uninvited. Memories of the day pass through awareness. The rhythm of work, a shared glance, a child's quiet laughter earlier in the evening. These fragments appear without effort, then fade. Some people think of those who are absent, loved ones not nearby, faces remembered more by feeling than detail. The night is when these thoughts find space, when the demands of the day no longer push them aside. Others focus on the immediate present, on breathing, on warmth, on the simple fact of rest. The mind learns how to narrow itself, how to avoid reaching too far forward or backward. Dreams, when they come, are often shaped by the familiar. Fields stretch endlessly. Hands work even in sleep. Voices echo softly. Occasionally, dreams carry moments of ease, walking without effort, sitting in shade, laughing without restraint. These moments are brief, but they leave traces behind. Children sleep more deeply at first, exhaustion claiming them quickly. Their breathing evens out sooner, their bodies yielding fully to rest. Adults remain more alert, waking easily to shifts or sounds. Care is taken even in sleep. As the night deepens, the air cools further. Blankets are adjusted. Bodies press closer together for warmth. The closeness is practical, but it also carries reassurance. Shared space means shared safety. There is no true separation between private and communal life here. Even in sleep, presence is constant. This closeness, though born of necessity, offers comfort in a world that rarely does. Hours pass slowly. Time feels different, at night less defined, more fluid. Without light to mark progress, the night stretches and compresses unpredictably. A few minutes can feel long. A long stretch can pass unnoticed. Occasionally, someone wakes fully, perhaps from a dream, or from pain, or simply from habit. They lie still, listening, waiting for sleep to return. The night teaches patience. The body recovers what it can. Muscles relax just enough. Energy begins to rebuild. Quietly, invisibly, it is never complete, but it is enough to face another day. Toward the later hours, the world outside grows even quieter. Insects slow, the air feels heavier. This is the deepest part of night, when rest, however fragile, is most likely to settle in. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, the balance begins to shift again. The sky lightens just a shade. Sounds begin to return, faint at first. The night loosens its hold, preparing to give way. Sleep thins. Bodies stir. Another day approaches. For now, though, there is still darkness. Stillness. A brief, delicate pause in the long chain of days, and within that pause, rest imperfect, interrupted, but deeply necessary, does its quiet work. The sky begins to lighten at the edges, not enough to announce a new day, but enough to signal that night is loosening its hold. The pause of sleep brief, uneven, necessary, gives way once more to movement. But not every day follows the same pattern. There is one day each week that carries a different rhythm, one that offers a small shift in the relentless flow of labor. Sunday arrives quietly. There is no dramatic difference at first. Bodies still wake early. Muscles still ache. The familiar stiffness greets everyone as they stir. But the pace of the day is altered, just enough to be noticed. For enslaved people in 1776, Sunday is often the only day when labor slows. Not disappears never. Disappears but softens. The demands ease slightly, allowing space for rest, reflection, and connection that the rest of the week does not permit. Morning routines are less hurried. Movements take on a gentler tempo. There is time to sit rather than stand, to finish a thought rather than abandon it midway. The sun rises, and for once, it does not immediately command the body forward. Some tasks still must be done. Animals need tending. Fires need attention. Meals still need preparation. Survival does not pause for the calendar, but the work is lighter, less driven by urgency. This change, though subtle, is deeply felt. For many, Sunday is associated with gathering. Church services may be attended, depending on location and circumstance. These gatherings are complex. Space is shaped by control and oversight, yet also offering moments of shared presence and listening. For some, the experience is quiet and restrained. For others, it becomes a rare chance to hear voices race together, to sit rather than stand, to let the mind focus on something other than the next task. Music, when present, carries particular weight on these days. Songs are sung softly or aloud, depending on what is allowed. The melodies linger, offering comfort that extends beyond the moment. Words passed through song often hold layers of meaning, faith, longing, endurance woven together gently. For those not attending services, Sunday still offers something precious. Time to mend clothing, carefully rather than hurriedly. Time to tend small gardens or personal spaces. Time to talk really, talk without constantly glancing toward the next demand. Children feel the difference immediately. They move more freely. Their energy, usually directed toward tasks, spills into play more openly. Laughter comes easier. Games last longer. The day stretches, not with labor, but with possibility. Adults to adjust. Shoulders lower, voices soften. The constant tension that fills the week eases just a little. It is not relief, exactly, but it is reprieve. Families use this time to reinforce bonds. Stories are told again, even if they have been told many times before. These repetitions are comforting, grounding. They remind everyone of continuity, of identity carried forward despite uncertainty. Food, when possible, is prepared with more care. Ingredients do not change, but the attention does. A meal eaten without haste tastes different, even if it is made from the same simple staples. Sunday afternoons often pass slowly. There is less structure, fewer instructions. People sit together, rest, or simply exist without the constant pressure to produce. This unstructured time can feel unfamiliar at first. Bodies accustomed to motion struggle with stillness. Minds, long trained to focus on tasks, drift restlessly. But gradually, the pause is accepted. There is space now for reflection. Some people think about the past, where their families came from, what has been lost, what remains. Others think about the future, though often in small, cautious woes tomorrow. Next week, the changing seasons. Faith plays a role here, though it is deeply personal and varied. For some, it offers hope. For others, it offers structure. For many, it is a quiet companion, carried inward rather than expressed outwardly. As the sun lowers, once again, Sunday begins to close. The knowledge that the pause is ending settles gently but firmly. Preparations for the coming week resume. Tools are checked. Clothing is set out. The rhythm of labor begins to reassert itself, yet something remains. The slower pace, the shared moments, the rest, however brief, leave an impression. They remind everyone that life contains more than work, even if access to that more is limited. Sunday does not change circumstances. It does not offer freedom, but it offers breath. And sometimes, breath is enough to carry a person through another long week. As evening falls, the day concludes quietly. The night returns, familiar and steady, and with it comes rest once more, shaped now by the memory of a rare pause. The week will begin again soon. But for now, the stillness lingers, just a little longer than usual. The quiet left behind by Sunday does not vanish all at once. It lingers into the next stretch of time, settling softly into the inner world, even as the familiar rhythm of labor prepares to return. Something else remains present, something carried inward, steady and unseen. Faith, for enslaved people in 1776, is not a single thing. It is layered, personal, and often private. It lives in words remembered, in songs sung softly, in thoughts held close, and rarely spoken aloud. Belief does not always come from formal instruction. It grows from experience, from listening, from watching how others endure. It is shaped by suffering, but not defined by it. For many, faith becomes a way to make sense of a world that offers few explanations and even fewer assurances. Some people attend religious services when they are allowed. These gatherings are structured, overseen, and often framed by teachings that emphasize obedience and endurance. The words spoken are familiar, repeated week after week. And yet, meaning is not fixed. Listeners bring their own understanding, their own hopes, their own questions. What is heard publicly may not be what is carried privately. Faith often moves quietly, slipping beneath the surface of daily life. It appears in the way people speak to one another during difficult moments, in the way parents comfort children when answers are unavailable, in the way individuals pause, breathe, and continue when the body wants to stop. Songs are especially powerful. Music holds memory and meaning together in a way that words alone cannot. Melodies pass from person to person, generation to generation, carrying emotion across time. A song can express sorrow without naming it, hope without promising it. These songs are not performances. They are shared experiences, woven into work, rest, and gathering. They steady the rhythm of labor and soften the edges of grief. They remind people that they are part of something larger than the moment they are living through. Belief also draws from older traditions, remembered imperfectly, but felt deeply. Stories passed down, fragments of language, practices adapted to new circumstances. All of these blend together. Faith becomes flexible, resilient, capable of surviving change. Prayer, when it happens, is often quiet. It does not require formal language or posture. It may be spoken inwardly, during work, during rest, during moments of fear or fatigue. It is a conversation shaped by necessity rather than ritual. For some, faith offers comfort. For others, it offers structure. For many, it offers a way to imagine justice beyond the limits of the present world. Not always in grand visions, but in small assurances that suffering is seen, that endurance matters, that life holds meaning even when it is constrained. There are also moments of doubt. Faith is not constant or uniform. Questions arise, especially in the quiet of night. Why things are the way they are, whether change is possible, whether hope is realistic. These doubts are not failures. They are part of a living inner life, one that grapples honestly with reality. Faith does not erase pain. It exists alongside it. Community plays a role here as well. Belief is strengthened through shared experience, through hearing someone else speak a familiar truth, through recognizing the same longing reflected in another's eyes. These moments reinforce connection, reminding people that they are not alone in their inner struggles. Children absorb these beliefs gradually. They learn through listening, through watching how adults respond to hardship. Faith becomes part of the background of life, shaping understanding before it is ever fully articulated. As the days move forward and labor resumes its steady pace, faith travels inward. It does not demand attention, it simply stays. In moments of exhaustion, it becomes a quiet anchor. In moments of fear, a source of steadiness. In moments of joy, rare but thrill, it becomes gratitude, even if unspoken. Belief also shapes how people imagine the future, not necessarily in terms of escape or transformation, but in terms of endurance, of continuing, of surviving with dignity intact. The inner world, though invisible, is rich and active. Thoughts, memories, beliefs, and hopes coexist with the physical demands of life. They offer depth where circumstances offer little. As evening approaches once more and the day draws to a close, these inner worlds remain alive. They are not diminished by fatigue. If anything, they become clearer when the noise of the day quiets. In the dark, with bodies resting and minds drifting, faith and belief move gently through thought and feeling, not as answers, but as companions. And as another night settles in, these inner worlds continue their quiet work holding, shaping, sustaining, preparing the spirit to rise again with the body when morning returns. The days continue, flowing one into the next with a sameness that can feel endless. And yet, within that sameness, there are quiet, current, small choices, subtle behaviors, nearly invisible to anyone not looking closely. These currents do not overturn the world, but they move within it, steady and persistent. Resistance, for enslaved people in 1776, rarely looks dramatic. It does not announce itself with raised voices or bold gestures. Instead, it lives in subtlety, in restraint, in the careful shaping of behavior that preserves a sense of self within a system designed to erase it. Much of this resistance begins with pace. Work is done as required, but not always more than required. Movements are measured, energy is conserved quietly, a task is completed thoroughly, but without haste that would invite greater demands. This careful balance between compliance and self-preservation is learned over time. There is resistance in remembering. Names are spoken softly among family and trusted friends. Stories are repeated so they are not lost. Origins are recalled, even when details have faded. Memory becomes an act of defiance, not loud, not confrontational, but enduring. There is resistance in language. Words are chosen carefully, meanings layered. Conversations carry subtext, understood by those who share the same experiences. Humor is used gently, sometimes dry, sometimes playful, always careful. A shared glance can communicate more than speech ever could. There is resistance in care. Looking after one another is not only kindness, it is preservation. Helping someone through exhaustion, covering briefly for a mistake, teaching a child, quietly, patiently. These acts strengthen community and reduce vulnerability. Parents resist by teaching children who they are, even when the world insists otherwise. They pass down values, stories, and expectations that affirm humanity. They teach children how to carry themselves, how to observe, how to endure without surrendering their inner selves. There is resistance in creativity. Songs change slightly over time. Words shift. Meanings deepen. Music becomes a shared language that can hold sorrow, hope, and resolve all at once. A melody can say what speech cannot. There is resistance in faith, too. Belief offers a framework that places injustice outside the ultimate order of things. It allows people to imagine worth beyond circumstance. Faith does not always promise change, but it offers meaning, and meaning is powerful. Even silence can be resistance. Choosing when not to speak, when to listen instead, when to hold thoughts inward rather than offer them up. Silence can protect, can preserve, can prevent harm. None of this is accidental. These forms of resistance are learned, practiced, refined. They are shaped by experience and passed along carefully. They allow people to survive not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. What makes this resistance remarkable is its consistency. It does not depend on opportunity or timing. It exists every day, woven into the fabric of ordinary life. And because it is subtle, it often goes unrecognized. But it matters deeply. It matters because it maintains identity in a system that denies it. It matters because it creates continuity across generations. It matters because it proves that control is never complete. There are limits, of course. The risks are real. People learn quickly where boundaries lie, where caution is required. Resistance is shaped by awareness of consequence. It is never reckless. This does not make it weak. It makes it strategic. Resistance here is not about confrontation. It is about survival with dignity intact. It is about choosing, again and again, to remain human in ways that cannot be taken away. As the days move forward, these quiet acts accumulate. They shape relationships. They influence how children grow, how adults endure, how communities hold together. They do not stop the labor. They do not erase hardship, but they change the experience of living within it. In the evening, when bodies rest and voices soften, these acts of resistance linger. They are present in the way people sit together, in the stories they choose to tell, in the silence they share. They are present in the resolve to rise again tomorrow, not as an object, but as a person. And so, without banners or battles, resistance continues steady, deliberate, and deeply human. As night settles in once more, these quiet choices remain, carried forward into sleep, into dreams, into another day waiting just beyond the dark. As the quiet forms of resistance continue beneath the surface of daily life, there is another reality that shapes every hour just as powerfully. It is carried in the body itself, in strength and in weakness, in endurance and in pain. The body is the most relied upon resource in this world, and also the most vulnerable. For enslaved people in 1776, physical health is not something monitored or protected with care. It is assumed, demanded, and often taken for granted until it begins to fail. The body is expected to work, to recover quickly, and to endure conditions that wear it down steadily over time. Injuries are common. Small cuts, blisters, strained muscles, these are part of daily life. They are noticed, but rarely given time to heal fully. A sore hand is wrapped if possible. A swollen joint is worked through. Rest is a luxury few can afford. More serious injuries happen too. A misstep. A tool used one time too many. A load lifted when the body is already exhausted. These injuries linger, sometimes for a lifetime. Pain becomes familiar, woven into movement and posture. Illness moves quietly through living spaces. Crowded quarters, limited sanitation, and long hours weaken the body's defenses. Fevers come and go, coughs linger, stomach troubles flare up without warning. Children fall ill easily, their smaller bodies more fragile. There is no reliable access to medical care. Doctors, when present at all, are distant figures, rarely consulted for everyday sickness. Treatments are limited, often harsh, and not always helpful. People learn quickly that care must come from within the community. Folk knowledge fills the gaps. Remedies are shared teas brewed from plants, poultices made from what the land provides. Knowledge of herbs, roots, and simple treatments is passed quietly, trusted because it has worked before. These practices are shaped by trial, memory, and necessity. Care is communal. When someone is unwell, others step in where they can. A task is covered briefly. A child is watched. Food is sared. These acts are not grand, but they are vital. They allow people to recover just enough to continue. Still, recovery is rarely complete. The body is pushed again before it is ready. Strength returns slowly, unevenly. Some illnesses fade. Others settle in and stay. Aging is accelerated by this constant strain. Bodies grow stiff earlier. Backs bend sooner. Hands lose flexibility. What might take decades under gentler conditions happens in far less time here. Older individuals carry visible signs of this wear. They move more slowly. They rest when possible. Their knowledge becomes even more valuable as their physical strength declines. They teach, guide, and advise, contributing in ways that do not rely solely on labor. There is respect here, quiet and earned. Experience matters. Endurance is recognized even when it is not rewarded. Mental and emotional strain also leave their mark. Exhaustion is not just physical. The mind carries stress that has no easy release. Worry settles into thought patterns. Sleep does not always bring relief. And yet, people adapt. They learn how to listen to their bodies, even when they cannot fully respond to what they hear. They adjust movements, pace themselves where possible, conserve energy in small ways. Children watch this closely. They learn how to move without drawing attention to pain, how to work through discomfort, how to ask for help without speaking aloud. These lessons are learned early, shaping how they inhabit their own body. Despite all of this, there is resilience. Bodies heal when given the chance. Strength returns unevenly, but it returns. Life continues not because the body is unbreakable, but because it is adaptable. Moments of relief are treasured. A cool evening breeze. A day when pain eases slightly. A night of deeper sleep. These moments are small, but they matter deeply. Healthier is not measured by absence of illness, but by the ability to continue. To re-say again, to work another day, to care for others, even while carrying one's own discomfort. As the seasons turn, the body responds. Heat drains energy. Cold stiffens joints. Each change requires adjustment. There is no escape from the physical realities of the world. And yet, the body remains central not just as a tool of labor, but as a vessel of memory, skill, and survival. It carries the marks of life lived under pressure, but also the quiet strength of persistence. As evening approaches, once more bodies settle into rest. Pain does not disappear, but it softens. Breathing steadies. Muscles loosen just enough. The body prepares itself, again for sleep, for recovery, for another day, waiting just ahead. Because in this world, the body is both burden and blessing. It is pushed beyond fairness, yet it endures, and that endurance shapes everything that follows. The cycle continues, steady and unavoidable. Days pass, not as isolated moments, but as part of a larger pattern, one shaped by weather, light, and the turning of the year itself. Time is not counted in dates or calendars here. It is felt through change. Life in 1776 is governed by the seasons. They arrive whether welcomed or not, bringing shifts that reshape daily routines, labor demands, and the body's experience of the world. For enslaved people, time is not abstract. It is physical. It is felt in the air, in the soil, in the strain placed on muscles and breath. Spring begins with expectation. The earth softens. The air carries moisture. Days lengthen, bringing more light and more work. Fields must be prepared. Seeds planted carefully at the right depth and spacing. Timing matters now more than ever. A mistake made in spring echoes through the rest of the year. The work is relentless, but there is a sense of beginning. Growth is visible. Green shoots appear. The land responds to effort, and that response is noticed, even appreciated, though rarely celebrated. Summer follows quickly, pressing down with heat and intensity. Days stretch long, sunlight lingering well into the evening. The workload increases alongside the temperature. Crops must be tended constantly. Weeds grow fast. The sun offers no mercy, and shade is scarce. Bodies respond to summer with fatigue that builds daily. Sweat becomes constant. Water is precious. The heat settles into bones and muscles, making each movement heavier than the last. Night offers limited relief. Warmth lingers even after darkness falls. Sleep is restless. Insects are more active. Still, summer must be endured, because the harvest depends on it. Autumn brings change again. The air cools. Light shifts. The land offers its yield, and the pace of work changes from tending to gathering. Harvest is intense, demanding long hours and careful handling. The outcome of months of labor is determined here. There is urgency now. Crops must be brought in before weather turns. Every day matters. Fatigue deepens. But there is also a sense of completion approaching, even if rest does not follow immediately. Food stores grow, supplies accounted mentally, measured against the coming cold. There is no abundance, but there is preparation. Winter arrives quietly, but its presence is unmistakable. Cold sharpens the air. Days shorten dramatically. The body stiffens. Work does not stop, but it changes. Outdoor labor leçons replaced by tasks closer to shelter. Fires become central. Warmth is carefully guarded. Clothing that offered little protection in summer now feels painfully insufficient. Wind cuts through fabric. Fingers numb quickly. The body works against cold rather than heat, conserving energy in new ways. Winter nights are long. Darkness comes early, stretching time inward. Rest is more frequent, but never comfortable. The cold seeps into everything: wood, earth, bone. Illness is more common now. Coughs linger. Joints ache. Children struggle more with the chill. Care becomes even more communal, shared quietly among those who can offer it. Through all of this time, not marked by holidays or milestones, but by repetition, by the return of familiar tasks, by the recognition of change in the air, by the body's response to the world around it. People age within this cycle. Children grow taller, stronger, more capable. Adults carry more wear with each passing year. Elders move more slowly, their knowledge deepening even as their strength fades. Memory stretches across seasons. Someone remembers a particularly harsh winter. Another recalls a summer when the heat seemed endless. These memories are referenced casually, woven into conversation, grounding the present in the past. The future is imagined cautiously, often in seasonal terms: getting through the winter, reaching the next harvest, seeing another spring. Time is not a distant horizon, it is the next shift, the next change, the next challenge. Despite the hardship, there is rhythm here. Predictability, even when difficult, offers a form of stability. Knowing what comes next allows for preparation, for adjustment, for endurance. The seasons also shape emotional life. Hope rises in spring. Strain peaks in summer. Focus sharpens in autumn. Reflection deepens in winter. These patterns repeat year after year, shaping how people feel as much as how they live. As one season gives way to the next, life continues without pause. There is no moment when time stops to acknowledge effort or survival. The cycle simply carries everyone forward. And yet, within this constant movement, there is persistence, a quiet determination to remain present, to adapt, to endure whatever the next season brings. As evening settles once more, the air carries a signature of its place in the year: warm or cool, dry or damp. Bodas respond instinctively. Preparations are made without thought. Time moves on, and tomorrow will arrive, shaped once again by the season that holds it. The seasons continue their slow turning, and with them, another layer of daily life becomes more noticeable, not something seen, but something constantly felt. Even when the eyes close, it remains present, shaping experience, moment by moment. Sound is everywhere. It weaves through each day, marking time more reliably than any clock. For enslaved people in 1776, sound is a guide, a warning, a comfort, and sometimes the only constant in a world that allows little control. Morning begins with it. Before light fully reaches the ground, the world stirs. Insects hum softly. Birds begin their calls, one after another, building a layered chorus that signals the approach of day. Somewhere nearby, footsteps move across packed earth. Wood creaks as doors open. The day announces itself, not with words, but with sound. As work beckons, new rhythms take over. Tools strike soil in steady patterns. Metal meets stone. Wood scrapes against wood. Each task has its own sound, instantly recognizable to those who perform it every day. These noises overlap, forming a constant backdrop that fills the hours. Voices move through this soundscape carefully. Instructions are spoken clearly. Questions are brief. Conversation is often limited, shaped by awareness of who might be listening. Tone matters as much as words. In the field, sound travels far. A voice raised slightly carries a crossroads. A tool dropped rings out sharply. Silence, too, has meaning. A sudden quiet can signal attention, caution, or change. Inside living spaces, the sounds are closer, more contained. Fires crackle softly. Pots clink together. Fabric rustles as clothing is mended or adjusted. Children's footsteps move lightly, learning where and when sound is safe. Music slips into this world quietly, a hum beneath breath. A melody shared softly during work. Songs rise and fall, shaped by the task at hand. These sounds offer rhythm, helping bodies move together, easing the strain of repetition. Songs are rarely still. Words shift. Tunes adapt. Meaning deepens. To repetition, music becomes both expression and communication, carrying emotion without demanding explanation. Laughter appears too, though often restrained. It bubbles up unexpectedly, a shared moment, a small joke, a memory recalled at just the right time. It never lasts long, but its presence is unmistakable, cutting through the heaviness of the day. The natural world contributes constantly. Wind moves through trees, rustling leaves differently in each season. Rain falls with varied intensity, from gentle tapping to heavy drumming. Thunder rolls in the distance, powerful and unavoidable, reminding everyone of forces larger than themselves. Animals add their own voices. Livestock shift, call out, settle. Dogs bark occasionally, responding to movement or sound beyond human notice. Insects dominate warm evenings, their chorus filling the space left behind as human activity slows. As evening approaches, the soundscape changes again. Work noises fade, voices soften. The crackle of fire becomes central once more. Utensils are set aside. Footsteps slow, the day's sharp edges dull into something quieter. Night introduces a different set of sounds. Crickets and frogs take over. Wind moves more freely. The creak of wood becomes more noticeable as temperatures shift. These sounds are familiar, expected. They form a kind of acoustic shelter, reminding people where they are, anchoring them in place. Sleep never fully silences the world. Breathing is heard clearly in close quarters. Someone shifts in rest. A child murmurs softly. These sounds are intimate, shared, and deeply reassuring. They signal presence, continuity, safety however fragile. Even in dreams, sound plays a role. Echoes of the day carry forward. Rhythms repeat. Songs linger, sometimes reappearing in altered forms. Silence, when it arrives, is meaningful. It might come just before dawn, when the world holds its breath, or during a pause in work, when attention sharpens. Silence is never empty. It is filled with awareness. People learn to listen carefully, to distinguish between ordinary and unusual sounds, to recognize when something is wrong, when something is changed. Listening becomes a survival skill, honed through experience. Children grow up immersed in this world of sound. They learn which noises signal safety and which require caution. They recognize familiar rhythms before they understand their significance. Sound also carries memory. Certain songs recall specific people. Certain rhythms bring back particular seasons or events. Hearing them again connects past and present effortlessly, without conscious effort. In a life where so much is controlled, sound offers a form of continuity. It cannot be taken away. It moves freely, crossing boundaries that physical bodies cannot. As night deepens and the world settles into its quieter patterns, sound remains a gentle companion through darkness. It marks the passing of time. It signals the return of morning. It holds pieces of identity and experience that cannot be erased. And as another day prepares to rise, the sounds of the enslaved world remain steady and familiar, ready to guide everyone once more into the rhythm of life that waits with the dawn. As the rhythms of sound settle into familiarity, another layer of life begins to show itself more clearly. It does not announce itself loudly, nor does it last long. But when it appears, it offers something precious lightness. Joy in the lives of enslaved people in 1776 is not grand or uninterrupted. It does not arrive as celebration, or reward. Instead, it appears quietly, slipping into the spaces left behind by labor and fatigue. These moments are brief, often unplanned, and deeply valued. Joy might come in laughter shared unexpectedly during a pause in work, a glance exchanged that carries humor without words, a small mistake turned into a quiet joke rather than a reprimand. These moments pass quickly, but they leave a trace behind, easing the weight of the day. Music plays a central role here. Songs rise when they can, shaped by voices that know one another well. Sometimes they are sung openly, sometimes under breath. The melodies may be familiar or improvised, changing with each repetition. Music allows emotion to move freely where words cannot. Dancing, when it happens, is spontaneous and short-lived. A few steps taken during an evening pause. A rhythm picked up instinctively. Movement becomes expression rather than labor, if only for a moment. Bodies remember that they can move for reasons other than work. Storytelling offers another path to joy. Stories are told not just to pass time, but to connect. They recall moments of humor, cleverness, or resilience. Characters are exaggerated, endings are shaped to bring satisfaction, even if reality does not always offer it. Children are often at the center of these moments. Their laughter comes more easily, less guarded. They invent games from scraps of time and imagination. A stone becomes a toy, a song becomes a game. Their joy is contagious, drawing smiles from adults who might otherwise remain serious. Food, when slightly better than usual, can also bring a spark of happiness. A meal prepared with care. A familiar taste that recalls another time. Eating together without haste transforms the experience. However briefly, these moments are stolen not because they are taken away, but because they exist despite constraint. They are carved out carefully, protected quietly. People learn when joy is safe, when it must be restrained, when it can be shared openly. Humor is often subtle, a dry comment, a shared understanding. It rarely draws attention, but it strengthens bonds. Laughter, even quiet laughter, reminds people of their humanity. Joy also appears in achievement, completing a task well, teaching a child successfully, solving a problem creatively. Pride is felt internally, even when it cannot be expressed outwardly. Nature offers its own gifts. A cool breeze after a hot day, the sight of stars emerging clearly in the night sky, the smell of rain on dry earth. These sensory moments bring comfort, grounding people in the world beyond their circumstances. There is joy in connection sitting close, sharing silence, knowing someone else understands without explanation. These moments do not need words. Presence itself is enough. What makes these moments powerful is not their size, but their contrast. Against the backdrop of constraint and repetition, even small pleasures shine brightly. They remind people that life contains more than survival. These experiences are not naive or unaware. People understand their fragility. That understanding does not lessen their value. If anything, it heightens it. Children learn this balance. Early, they learn to enjoy fully while the moment lasts, to release it without bitterness when it passes. This adaptability becomes a form of strength. As the day winds down and evening settles in, these moments of joy linger in memory. They soften the edges of exhaustion. They offer something to hold on to during the long hours of work that follow. Joy does not erase hardship. It does not change circumstance, but it sustains the spirit in ways that are difficult to measure. It affirms identity. It reinforces connection. It reminds people that they are more than what is demanded of them. As night deepens and rest begins to claim tired bodies, these small joys travel inward. They reappear in dreams, in quiet thoughts, in the subtle lift of mood that greets the next day. They are not constant. They are not guaranteed, but they are real. And in a life where so much is constrained, that reality matters deeply. As the quiet moments of joy fade back into the rhythm of daily life, another awareness moves slowly into view. It does not arrive through announcements or headlines. It filters in through fragments of overheard words, shifting routines, distant changes that ripple softly into everyday existence. In 1776, the world is changing. For enslaved people, This change is not experienced through proclamations or celebrations. It is sensed indirectly through altered conversations, unfamiliar tensions, and subtle shifts in the behavior of those in power. Whispers travel, a word caught in passing, a tone that carries urgency, a discussion that stops when someone enters the room. These fragments suggest that something larger is happening beyond the fields, beyond the cabins, beyond the reach of daily labor. People talk quietly among themselves when they can. They share what they've heard, careful not to exaggerate, careful not to hope too loudly. News is incomplete, often distorted by distance and retelling. Still, it sparks curiosity. There is talk of disagreement, of conflict, of separation from something once considered permanent. Words like independence and liberty surface occasionally, though their meanings feel distant, abstract. For many enslaved people, these concepts are complicated. Freedom is not a theoretical idea. It is not a philosophical debate. It is something immediate and tangible, measured in choices, denied in control imposed. Hearing others speak passionately about freedom invites questions that have no easy answers. What does change mean for those who are not included in its promises? This question lingers quietly. It is rarely spoken aloud, but it is felt deeply. Some notice practical differences. Increased tension, more movement, new faces passing through. Supplies redirected, work adjusted slightly to meet new demands. These changes are subtle, but they are noticed. There is uncertainty in the air. People sense that established patterns may not hold forever. That something is shifting, even if its outcome is unclear. This awareness brings both caution and curiosity. Hope, when it appears, is careful. It does not rush forward. It does not attach itself to grand visions. Instead, it takes the form of questions. Possibilities considered briefly, then set aside. No one allows themselves to believe too fully in something that may not come. Older individuals often respond differently. They have seen changes before: new rules, new authorities, new promises that did not include them. Their experience tempers expectation. They listen more than they speak. Younger people, especially children, absorb the mood without fully understanding it. They notice the tension, the whispers, the way adults pause mid-sentence. They feel that something is happening, even if they cannot name it. Life continues. Fields still need tending. Meals still need preparing. Children still need care. The changing world does not excuse anyone from the demands of daily existence. The labor continues, steady and relentless. And yet, awareness grows. People begin to pay closer attention to conversations not meant for them. To visitors who carry unfamiliar accents. To moments when routines shift unexpectedly. These details are collected mentally, stored away. There is no single reaction to this changing world. Some feel cautious optimism. Others feel skepticism. Many feel a mix of both, held in balance. The idea that systems might change is both hopeful and unsettling. Change can bring opportunity, but it can also bring new dangers. Experience teaches restraint. Faith and belief shape how these changes are interpreted. Some see events as part of a larger unfolding. Others see them as distant and unrelated to their own lives. Most hold their interpretations quietly. What remains constant is uncertainty. No one knows how these larger events will touch their own lives, if at all. The lack of clarity is both frustrating and protective. It prevents false certainty, but it also limits preparation. As time passes, the initial novelty of change fades into background tension. Life adjusts around it. People learn to live with questions unanswered. The world beyond the fields and cabins continues to shift, but daily life remains grounded in immediate reality. Survival does not wait for political outcomes. Still, the awareness remains. It surfaces in quiet conversations, in thoughtful silences, in the way people listen more closely than before. As evening approaches once more, the day settles into familiar patterns. Fires are lit. Food is shared. Bodies rest. The larger world continues to move beyond sight and control, its direction uncertain, its impact unknown. And within this uncertainty, people endure watching, listening, adapting, ready to respond to whatever changes eventually reach them. Because history does not arrive all at once, It arrives quietly, piece by piece, woven into the ordinary moments of life. As the distant world continues to shift beyond reach, life presses forward within the boundaries that have always existed. Days accumulate, seasons turn, and quietly, without ceremony, people grow older. Aging arrives early here. It is not measured in years so much as in wear, in stiffness that lingers longer each morning, in strength that does not return as quickly after rest, in movements adjusted instinctively to protect joints that no longer bend as they once did. For enslaved people in 1776, aging is visible and unmistakable. The body carries its history openly. Hands thicken and harden, backs curve slightly from years of bending, knees complain with each step, especially in cold weather. There is no retirement from labor. Work continues as long as the body allows it to. Expectations may shift slightly, but usefulness remains the measure of worth imposed from outside. Older individuals adapt. They move more deliberately. They choose efficiency over speed. They conserve energy carefully, knowing that once spent, it is slower to return. These adjustments are not signs of weakness. They are signs of experience. With age comes knowledge that cannot be rushed. Older people understand patterns, deeply the land, the seasons, the rhythms of work. They know when weather will turn before the sky makes it obvious. They recognize which tools will fail soon and which can be trusted. Their understanding is quiet, intuitive, and invaluable. They also understand people. They read moods quickly. They notice changes in behavior. They sense tension before it becomes visible. This awareness allows them to guide younger individuals subtly, offering advice without drawing attention. Teaching becomes a central role. Older adults pass on skills, techniques, and strategies learned over decades. They do so through demonstration, through correction, through presence. Their influence shapes how work is done long after their own bodies begin to slow. Children often gravitate toward them. They listen to stories repeated many times, hearing new details with each telling. These stories carry memory of people gone, of times different from the present. They provide continuity, grounding the young in a larger narrative. There is respect here, though it is rarely formalized. It is shown in small ways. A task taken over when someone tires, a seat offered closer to the fire, a pause allowed where none is required. Aging also brings reflection. Older individuals think more often about what they have seen and lived through, about change that came slowly or not at all, about people remembered and missed. These thoughts are carried quietly, rarely spoken unless asked. There is grief here, too. The body's decline is not abstract. It is felt daily. There is frustration in not being able to move as quickly, not being able to lift as much, not being able to endure as before. This loss is acknowledged inwardly, accepted outwardly. Health concerns become more frequent with age. Aches. Dipan. Illness lingers longer. Recovery slows. Care from others becomes more important, more noticeable. Community responds. People adjust workloads subtly. They share responsibilities where they can. These accommodations are not official, but they are real. They reflect an understanding that survival depends on mutual support. Older individuals contribute in ways that do not rely solely on physical strength. They watch children. They prepare food. They advise. They remember. Memory itself becomes a form of labor. Holding on to names, events, and experiences ensures that lives are not erased entirely. These memories are passed down carefully, becoming part of shared identity. There is dignity here, though it is rarely acknowledged from outside. Dignity in endurance and adaptation, in continuing to contribute despite limitation, in remaining present and engaged with the world. As the days continue, aging reshapes relationships. Younger individuals begin to take on roles once held by elders. Responsibility shifts gradually, without announcement. The cycle continues. Time moves forward without pause. Older people watch this movement with mixed feelings, pride in what the young have learned, concern for what they will face. Advice is offered gently, shaped by experience. As evening arrives, older bodies settle into rest more carefully. Movements are slower, more deliberate. Pain is managed quietly. Rest is treasured. In the quiet of night, reflection deepens. Thoughts turn to the past and to the present, more than the future. There is acceptance here, not of circumstance, but of reality as it has unfolded. Aging, in this world, is not marked by milestones or celebration. It is marked by persistence, by the continued presence of those who have endured long enough to see time pass around them. And as night settles in once more, the cycle continues carrying forward memory, experience, and the quiet strength that comes only with time. As time continues its steady passage, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. Much of what has been lived, built, and sustained will never be formally recorded. Names fade, stories blur, contributions disappear into the background of history. The labor of enslaved people in 1776 shapes the world around them in countless ways, yet their presence is rarely acknowledged in the records that survive. Fields cultivated year after year, homes maintained, crops grown, harvested, stored, and prepared. Roads cleared, tools repaired, children raised, communities sustained. All of it happens through effort that leaves physical traces, but few written ones. What remains visible often hides its origins. A successful harvest is attributed to land and management, not to the hands that worked the soil. A well-run household reflects order, not the labor that made it possible. Structures stand, systems function, wealth accumulates without credit given to those who made it happen. This absence of recognition is not accidental. It is built into the way the world is organized. Enslaved people are present everywhere and acknowledged nowhere. Their work is assumed, their skill is expected, their endurance is demanded, but their stories are not preserved in official accounts. Legacy, as commonly defined, does not belong to them. And yet, legacy exists. It lives in the land itself, in the patterns of cultivation that persist, in techniques passed down quietly through generations, in the ways communities survive and adapt despite erasure. It lives in families. Names may not appear in records, but they are spoken aloud. Stories are told and retold. Memories are carried carefully, even when details fade. These narratives form a living archive, one that exists outside written history. Children inherit more than circumstances. They inherit knowledge, values, and resilience shaped by those who came before them. They carry forward lessons learned through hardship and care. This transmission is subtle, but powerful. Legacy also lives in culture. Songs, rhythms, expressions, and traditions endure. They change over time, adapting to new conditions, but their roots remain. These cultural threads connect past and present, even when their origins are unacknowledged. The lack of recognition does not diminish the reality of contribution. Enslaved people build and sustain systems that outlast them. Their labor becomes part of the foundation upon which others stand. Even when their names are missing, their influence remains embedded in the world. There is a quiet injustice in this imbalance. Effort without acknowledgement, skill without credit, lives lived fully, yet recorded only partially, if at all. This injustice is not always felt as anger in daily life. More often, it is absorbed, endured, carried forward. People focus on what they can control, caring for family, passing on knowledge, maintaining dignity. These priorities shape choices more than the pursuit of recognition ever could. Older individuals understand this deeply. They know that history, as written, will not reflect their lives accurately. They accept this not because it is fair, but because survival demands focus on the present. Still, memory persists. Within families and communities, names are remembered, relationships are honored, stories of cleverness, kindness, and endurance circulate quietly. These memories matter deeply to those who carry them. Legacy is also found in the impact one person has on another, a skill taught, a child guided, a moment of care offered when it mattered most. These influences ripple outward, shaping lives in ways that cannot be measured or recorded. Even small actions accumulate significance over time. The absence of formal recognition does not erase meaning. It shifts where meaning is held from public record to private remembrance. As days continue, people live without expectation that their lives will be remembered widely. They do not work for posterity. They work for survival, for family, for community. And yet, their existence shapes the future profoundly. The world that emerges from this time bears their imprint everywhere in its economy, its culture, its land. Even when history fails to name them, their presence is undeniable. As evening approaches once more, reflection deepens. People think about what they will leave behind, not in monuments or documents, but in people, in children and grandchildren, in shared knowledge, in values modeled through action. This form of legacy is quieter, but it is enduring. It does not depend on recognition to exist. And as night settles in, the lives lived without acknowledgement continue to matter deeply, fundamentally forming the unseen backbone of a history that cannot be told honestly without them.